The cafeteria buzzed with 100 different conversations in a dozen different languages. Maya Chen sat alone at a corner table, pushing synthetic protein cubes around her tray with a fork. Around her, students from across the galaxy laughed and argued and made plans for the weekend. She kept her head down and tried to make herself invisible. This was supposed to be her fresh start. Prometheus Station University, the most prestigious academy in the Federation, where species from 70 different worlds came to study. Where nobody knew her past. Where she could just be another student trying to pass quantum mechanics and complain about dorm food like everyone else. But fitting in was harder than she expected. The Vraxian sitting 3 tables, overhead scales that shimmered like oil on water. The Cathari pair near the windows had 4 arms each, and were having an animated debate using all of them. Even the other humans seemed so confident, so at ease. They had grown up in peaceful colonies, attended normal schools, worried about normal things. Maya had grown up in a war zone. She stabbed a protein cube harder than necessary. That was the past. This was now. She just needed to keep her head down for 4 years, get her degree in xenobiology, and disappear into some research position where she could work with samples and data instead of people. Hey, is this seat taken? Maya looked up to find a Deltheran standing beside her table. The alien was tall and willowy, with skin that shifted through shades of blue and purple depending on the light. 3 eyes blinked at her in what she had learned was a friendly expression. No. Go ahead. Maya gestured at the empty chairs. Thanks. I'm Zilara, biochemistry major, 2nd year. The Deltheran set down a tray piled high with what looked like colorful moss. You're in Professor Kess's xenobiology class, right? I saw you yesterday. Maya, 1st year. Yeah, that's me. She tried to smile, but it felt stiff on her face. Social interaction, right? Normal students did this. Zilara settled into her chair and started eating, talking between bites. That class is fascinating but brutal. Kess doesn't go easy on anyone. Last semester, she made students do a presentation in front of actual Hrothi diplomats. Half the class nearly passed out from stress. Maya nodded, not sure what to say. Her mind was already calculating exit strategies. How long before she could politely excuse herself? 5 minutes? 10? Where are you from? Zilara asked. Your accent is interesting. Core worlds? Her stomach tightened. Earth colony. Outer Rim. She kept it vague. Most people didn't follow Outer Rim news. Pretty boring place. What about you? Delthera Prime in the Kepler Belt, also pretty boring. Zilara laughed, a sound like wind chimes. My parents are researchers. They practically pushed me into biochem from birth. What made you pick xenobiology? Maya hesitated. Because understanding how different species work had kept her alive. Because knowing which aliens could detect fear through pheromones and which responded to specific visual cues had made the difference between life and death. Because she had seen what happened when humans didn't understand the species trying to kill them. I find it interesting, she said instead. All the different ways life can evolve. Before Zilara could respond, a commotion erupted near the entrance. Maya's head snapped up, her hand instinctively moving toward her hip where a weapon would have been. She forced herself to stop, to breathe. No weapon, no danger. She was safe here. A group of Vraxian students had surrounded someone, their voices raised in what sounded like an argument. Maya couldn't see who was in the center, but she could hear the anger in the Vraxians' hissing voices. Zilara craned her neck to see. Oh no, that's Torvin again. He's always starting something with the Vraxians. Something about trade disputes between their homeworlds. Maya watched the crowd gather, the way the Vraxians were positioning themselves. Encirclement pattern, classic intimidation tactic. Her mind automatically cataloged exits, potential weapons, threat levels, old habits. Should someone get security? She asked quietly. Nah, it'll blow over. It always does. They just like to posture and yell. Nobody actually fights here. Zilara sounded completely unconcerned. Maya wasn't so sure. She could see the way the largest Vraxian scales were darkening, a clear sign of aggression in their species. The crowd was getting denser, blocking the exits. This was how situations escalated, but she forced herself to look away to take a bite of her food. Normal students didn't analyze crowd dynamics. Normal students trusted that everything would be fine. She just wanted to be normal. Anyway, Zilara continued, oblivious to Maya's tension, there's a study group that meets in the library every Tuesday for Kess's class. You should come. It really helps and everyone's pretty friendly. Maya opened her mouth to decline politely, but Zilara kept talking. Plus, there's this Cathari guy, Ren, who somehow makes everything make sense. He saved my grade at least twice, and afterward we usually grab dinner together. It's a good group. A study group. Social interaction. The exact opposite of keeping her head down. But looking at Zilara's hopeful expression, at the genuine friendliness in her alien features, Maya found herself nodding. Okay. Yeah. Tuesday. I'll be there. Zilara's skin brightened to a cheerful lavender. Great, you'll love it. Oh, and don't worry about being new. Everyone in the group was new once. We're all just trying to survive Kess's assignments. Maya managed a more genuine smile this time. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad. Maybe she really could fit in here, leave her past behind, be just another struggling student. The shouting near the entrance suddenly stopped. Maya glanced over to see the Vraxians backing off. A security officer's presence having calmed the situation. Just a minor scuffle resolved peacefully. Nothing to worry about. She turned back to Zilara, who was launching into a story about a disastrous lab experiment involving explosive fungi. Maya listened and nodded at the right moments, and for the first time since arriving at the station, she felt something almost like belonging. Maybe, just maybe, she could make this work. All she had to do was keep the past buried and pretend to be someone she wasn't. How hard could that be? Tuesday came faster than Maya expected. She stood outside the library study room, her backpack heavy on her shoulders, trying to convince herself to go in. Through the glass door she could see 4 students already seated around a table covered in tablets and data pads. A Cathari with russet fur and 4 gesticulating arms had to be Ren. Zilara was there too, along with 2 other students she didn't recognize, just normal students. Having a normal study session, nothing to be afraid of. She pushed the door open. All 4 heads turned toward her. Maya! You made it! Zilara waved her over. Everyone, this is Maya. She's in our xenobiology class. Maya, this is Ren, Jax, and Kira. Ren gave a formal Cathari greeting bow with all 4 arms. Welcome. We were just discussing the cellular structure assignment. Have you started it yet? A little, Maya said, sliding into an empty chair. I'm stuck on the Hrothi respiratory system. The way their gas exchange works doesn't make sense to me. Jax, a human with bright green hair and multiple piercings, laughed. That's because it doesn't make sense. Their biology breaks like 6 rules we learned in basic xenobiology. Professor Kess loves throwing the weird ones at us. The Hrothi evolved in a methane-rich environment, Ren explained, pulling up a holographic diagram with one hand while making notes with another. Their respiratory system actually does triple duty. It exchanges gases, regulates temperature, and filters toxins. Think of it less like lungs and more like a biological chemical plant. As Ren walked them through the process, Maya found herself relaxing. This was just academics. No personal questions, no prying into her background. Just the clean logic of biology and chemistry. Kira, a Zentari with crystalline features that refracted light into rainbow patterns, leaned forward. Okay, but here's what I don't get. How do the Hrothi survive in oxygen environments? They're at the university right now, breathing our air. Wouldn't that be toxic to them? They use respiratory adapters, Maya said before she could stop herself. Small devices that pre-process the air before it enters their system. The adapters break down oxygen molecules and mix them with compatible compounds. It's not comfortable for them, but it works. Everyone stared at her. She felt her face grow hot. That's not in the textbook, Ren said slowly. How did you know that? Because she had seen Hrothi soldiers up close. Because she had learned to identify the faint hiss of their respiratory adapters, a sound that meant danger was near. Because knowing how to disable those adapters had saved lives. I read it somewhere, she said quickly. Maybe an article online. Zilara's eyes brightened. That's really detailed knowledge. You must do a lot of outside reading. I can barely keep up with the assigned material. Maya shrugged, trying to appear casual. I just find this stuff interesting. Jax grinned. Well, feel free to share more interesting facts. This group can use all the help it can get. Last week I almost wrote that Cathari had 3 hearts instead of 5. I have 4 hearts, actually, Ren corrected with good humor. The 5-heart thing is a myth about our northern subspecies. The conversation flowed easily after that. They worked through the assignment together, and Maya found herself contributing more than she meant to. She knew things about alien physiology that apparently weren't in the textbooks. Things about vulnerable points in Shian armor plating. Things about Zentari optical sensitivity to specific light frequencies. Things about which species could track movement by electromagnetic fields. She tried to keep it general, tried to frame it as academic curiosity, but she caught Ren giving her thoughtful looks more than once. After 2 hours, they wrapped up and headed to the station's food court as a group. Maya walked slightly behind the others, listening to them chat about upcoming exams and weekend plans, normal student worries, normal student lives. "So, Maya," Jack said as they found a table, "what do you do for fun? Any hobbies?" She froze. Hobbies. What did normal students do? She couldn't exactly say her hobby was disassembling and reassembling weapons or practicing hand-to-hand combat forms or running tactical simulations in her head. Reading mostly. Science journals. That kind of thing. "Kira plays graviton ball," Solara offered. "She's really good. We should all go watch her game this weekend." "It's just recreational league," Kira said modestly, though her crystalline features glowed brighter with pleasure. "But yeah, you should come. It's fun to have people in the stands." Maya nodded, committing to another social event before she could think better of it. This was good, she told herself. This was normal. Making friends, going to games, being part of a group. The food court was crowded with the dinner rush. Maya automatically scanned the space as they ate. Emergency exits. Security stations. Groups that might pose threats. Her eyes caught on a table of frothy students across the room. Her chest tightened. She could hear the faint hiss of their respiratory adapters from here, a sound that made her want to run. She forced herself to stay seated to breathe normally. These weren't soldiers. They were students. "Just students. You okay?" Ren's quiet voice made her jump. 2 of his eyes were focused on her while the other 2 tracked the conversation with Jax and Zalara. "Fine. Just tired." She managed a smile. "Long day." Ren studied her for a moment longer, then nodded slowly. But she had the uncomfortable feeling that he had noticed more than she wanted him to. Thari were known for their perceptiveness, their ability to read subtle body language across multiple species. She needed to be more careful. The group split up after dinner, everyone heading back to their dorms. Zilara walked with Maya since they lived in the same residential section. "I'm really glad you came tonight," Zilara said as they navigated the crowded corridors. "You fit right in. I knew you would. Thanks for inviting me." Maya meant it. Despite her anxiety, despite the constant effort to appear normal, it had felt good to be part of something. "You know," Zilara said hesitantly, "if you ever want to talk about anything, I'm a good listener. I know starting over at a new place can be hard." Maya's throat tightened. If only Zilara knew. If only any of them knew. But she couldn't tell them. Couldn't burden them with the weight of what she had survived, what she had done to survive. "I appreciate that," she said softly. "Really. But I'm doing okay." They reached the split in the corridor where their paths diverged. Zilara gave her a warm smile, her skin flickering through pleased shades of blue. "See you in class tomorrow?" "Yeah, see you tomorrow." Maya made her way to her tiny dorm room, barely bigger than a closet but blessedly private. She locked the door behind her and finally let her shoulders drop, let the careful mask slip away. In the mirror above her desk, a stranger looked back at her. A normal college student with tired eyes and messy hair, not a survivor, not a fighter. Just Maya Chen, xenobiology major, trying to fit in. She could do this. She could keep the past buried. She could be normal. She had to. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of classes, study sessions, and cautious socialization. Maya fell into a rhythm. She kept her head down in lectures, contributed just enough in the study group to be helpful but not suspicious, and avoided any situation that might reveal too much about her past. It was working. She was fitting in, until the day everything fell apart. It started innocently enough. Maya was walking back from the library when she heard shouting ahead. A crowd had gathered in one of the main corridors, forming a tight circle around something she couldn't see. Students craned their necks, some recording on their devices. Her instinct screamed at her to walk away, to avoid whatever was happening. But then she heard Zalara's voice, high and frightened. "Please, just stop." Maya was pushing through the crowd before she could think better of it. Students gave way, startled by her intensity. At the center of the circle, she found Zilara backed against a wall by 3 Vraxian students. The largest one, scales dark with aggression, had two of his forearms pinning Zilara while a third pointed a device at her face. "Not so smug now, are you?" the Vraxian hissed. "Your people think they're so superior. Let's see how you like being on the receiving end." Maya's mind cataloged the device in an instant. Frequency emitter. Capable of causing intense pain to species with sensitive neural systems like the Deltharans. Not lethal but agonizing. She should wait for security. She should stay out of it. She should be smart. Instead, she stepped forward. "Let her go." The Vraxian turned, his scales rippling with amusement. Up close, Maya could see he was nearly twice her size. All four arms corded with muscle. The other two flanked him, watching with predatory interest. "Or what, little human? You going to make me?" The crowd had gone quiet. Maya could feel dozens of eyes on her. She should back down. Should diffuse this peacefully. That's what normal students would do. But Zilara was terrified, tears streaming down her face, and Maya could see the Vraxian's finger tightening on the emitter's trigger. "Yes," Maya said quietly. "I am." What happened next took less than 3 seconds. The Vraxian lunged at her with his free arms. Maya sidestepped, grabbed his wrist and twisted. The joint gave with a crack. Before he could react, she drove her elbow into the gap between his chest plates where the respiratory system was most vulnerable. He dropped, gasping. The device clattered to the floor. Maya kicked it away, then turned to face the other two Vraxians. They had frozen, staring at their leader writhing on the ground. "Anyone else?" Maya asked, her voice calm and cold. They backed away slowly, then turned and fled through the crowd. Maya watched them go, adrenaline singing through her veins before turning to Zilara. "Are you hurt?" Zilara shook her head mutely, her skin cycling through shocked grays and whites. She stared at Maya like she'd never seen her before. That's when Maya realized what she'd done. Her carefully constructed normal life had just shattered in front of a crowd of witnesses. Every student in that corridor had seen her move with trained precision, had seen her identify and exploit a Vraxian's vulnerabilities, had seen her act like a soldier. The Vraxian on the ground groaned, struggling to his feet. Maya stepped back as security officers finally arrived, pushing through the crowd. "What happened here?" the lead officer demanded, a hulking Trandorian in uniform. A dozen voices started talking at once. Maya heard fragments. She attacked him. He had a weapon. She moved so fast. That human just destroyed a Vraxian. The officer looked between Maya, the injured Vraxian, and the frequency emitter on the floor. His expression was grim. "All three of you, come with me. Now." Maya followed the officers in silence, acutely aware of the stares following her. Zilara walked beside her, still trembling. The Vraxian limped behind them, cradling his broken wrist. They were taken to the security office, separated into different rooms. Maya sat in a sterile interrogation room for what felt like hours, replaying the incident over and over. She should have controlled herself better. Should have found another way. Should have stayed out of it entirely. But she couldn't have just watched Zilara get hurt. Despite everything, despite her determination to keep everyone at arm's length, Zilara had become something like a friend. The door finally opened. Instead of a security officer, Dean Merchant walked in. The tall, gray-haired human was the head of student affairs and someone Maya had hoped to avoid for her entire academic career. "Miss Chen." Dean Merchant sat down across from her, laying a tablet on the table. That was quite a display. Maya said nothing. "I've reviewed the security footage and witness statements. You're not in trouble. What you did was clearly self-defense on behalf of another student. The Vraxian student will face disciplinary action for assault and weapons possession." The dean paused. "However, I do have some questions." Here it comes, Maya thought. The questions she couldn't answer. "Where did you learn to fight like that, Miss Chen?" She met the dean's eyes steadily. "My colony. We had to learn self-defense." "That wasn't self-defense training, Miss Chen. That was military combat technique. You knew exactly where to strike a Vraxian to cause maximum incapacitation with minimum permanent damage." The dean leaned forward. "I did some checking after I saw your application. You're from New Providence." Maya's stomach dropped. New Providence. The colony that had been caught in the middle of a brutal territorial war. The colony where civilians had been forced to become soldiers or die. "Yes," she said quietly. "The war there ended 3 years ago. You would have been 15 when it started, 17 when it ended." The dean's expression softened slightly. "You were a child soldier, weren't you?" The words hung in the air between them. Maya wanted to deny it, to deflect, but what was the point? The dean already knew. We preferred the term militia volunteer, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But yes. Dean Merchant was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was gentle. You came here to start over, to be a normal student? Maya nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Miss Chen, I want you to understand something. What happened to you? What you survived? That's not something to be ashamed of. You protected your home, your people. That took incredible courage. The dean paused. But I also understand why you'd want to leave it behind. Can I still stay? Maya asked, hating how small her voice sounded. At the university, I mean. I just want to finish my degree and disappear into a lab somewhere. I don't want any attention. I just want to be normal. Of course you can stay. You're an exemplary student and you acted to protect another student. That's not a violation of any university policy. The dean stood. However, I should warn you. By tomorrow, everyone on this station is going to know what happened today. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. Maya felt something crumble inside her. All her careful planning, all her effort to fit in, destroyed in 3 seconds of instinct. You're free to go, Dean Merchant said. But Miss Chen? If you ever need someone to talk to, my door is open. There are resources available for students dealing with trauma. Thank you, Maya managed. She left the office in a daze. Zilara was waiting outside, along with Ren, Jax, and Kira. They all looked at her with expressions she couldn't quite read. Concern, confusion, and something else. Wariness, maybe. Everything had changed, and there was no going back. Maya didn't sleep that night. She lay in her dorm room, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the fallout. By morning, her worst fears were confirmed. Her student ID had accumulated over 300 messages. The university gossip network had been working overtime. She deleted them without reading most of them. Interview requests from student journalists. Curious questions from classmates she'd never spoken to. A few supportive messages. A few hostile ones. One from someone offering to pay her to teach them how to fight. She almost didn't go to class. But hiding would just make everything worse, so she forced herself to shower, dress, and walk through the station corridors with her head up, even as students stopped to stare and whisper. Professor Kess's xenobiology lecture was in the largest hall on the station, a circular amphitheater that could hold 500 students. Maya usually sat in the back corner, easy to overlook. Today, when she walked in, the entire room went quiet. 500 pairs of eyes from dozens of species turned to watch her. She kept walking, kept her face neutral, and made it to her usual seat. The whispers started immediately. Professor Kess, a distinguished Vraxian scholar with silver-edged scales, cleared her throat at the podium. I trust everyone has had sufficient time to gossip. Shall we turn our attention to cellular mitosis? Her tone was dry but not unkind. The room settled down, though Maya could still feel curious stares prickling at her neck. Halfway through the lecture, Zilara slipped into the seat beside her. Maya tensed, but Zilara just smiled and passed her a note on a data pad. Thank you for yesterday. I'm sorry for all this attention. You want to grab lunch after? Maya stared at the message. Zilara wasn't afraid of her, wasn't avoiding her, was treating her like a friend. She typed back, yes, lunch, and you have nothing to be sorry about. After class, they headed to a quieter cafe off the main corridors. The rest of the study group was already there, occupying a corner booth. Maya hesitated at the entrance. Come on, Zilara said gently, taking her arm. They're your friends too. Maya let herself be guided to the table. Ren, Jax, and Kira looked up as they approached. There was an awkward beat of silence, then Jax grinned. So war hero, huh? That's significantly cooler than my hobby of collecting vintage comic books. The tension broke. Maya found herself laughing, a slightly hysterical sound. Not a hero, she said, sliding into the booth. Just someone who survived. New Providence, Ren said quietly. All 4 of his eyes were fixed on her with that unnerving Cathari intensity. I looked it up last night. The siege lasted 18 months. Civilian casualties were over 60%. Maya's throat tightened. 62%. Kira's crystalline features had gone dim with sympathy. We're not going to ask you to talk about it, but we want you to know that we're still your friends. If anything, we're impressed you're here trying to build a normal life after all that. It explains a lot, though, Zilara added. Like how you knew all that detailed stuff about different species' vulnerabilities and adaptations. You weren't just reading academic articles. Field research, Maya said with dark humor. Very hands-on. They ordered food and gradually the conversation shifted to safer topics. Class assignments. Professor Kess's impossible standards. Kira's upcoming Graviton ball game. But Maya could feel the questions hanging in the air, the curiosity her friends were politely suppressing. Finally, she set down her fork. Okay, ask. Whatever you want to know, just ask. Let's get it over with. They exchanged glances. Jack spoke first. How old were you? When it started, I mean. 15. I joined the militia 6 months later after. She paused, then pushed through. After my parents were killed in an orbital bombardment. My little brother and I were alone. The militia offered protection, training, food. It was join or starve, your brother, Zilara asked softly. He made it. He's on Earth now with our aunt, safe. That's why I could come here, why I could try to. She gestured vaguely. Be normal. Did you kill people? Kira asked bluntly, then immediately looked horrified. Sorry, that was inappropriate. No, it's okay. Maya met her eyes steadily. Yes, I did. It was war. It was kill or be killed, protect my home or watch it burn. I did what I had to do to survive, to protect the people I cared about. She paused. I don't regret it, but I don't want to do it ever again. The table was quiet. Then Ren spoke, his voice thoughtful. On my homeworld we have a saying. The tree that survives the storm grows the strongest roots. You survived your storm, Maya. Now you're here trying to grow. That takes a different kind of courage than fighting did. Maya felt her eyes burning. She blinked hard, refusing to cry in front of them. Thank you, she whispered. All of you. For not running away screaming? Are you kidding? Jack said. You're easily the most interesting person in our study group now. Ren's 4 hearts have nothing on you. Ren made an exaggerated gesture of offense with all 4 arms and everyone laughed. The mood lightened. They finished their meal, and when they left the cafe, Maya felt lighter than she had in weeks, but the universe wasn't done testing her yet. As they walked through the main concourse, a crowd had gathered near the central plaza. Maya's hackles rose immediately. Something was wrong. The crowd was too dense, too agitated. Then she heard the screaming. Bomb! There's a bomb! The crowd erupted into panic. Students stampeded in every direction, shoving and trampling. Maya saw a small Glinian child go down under the press of bodies. Without thinking, she was moving, shoving through the crowd with practiced efficiency. She reached the child, scooped them up, and looked for exits. All the main corridors were clogged with panicking students. But there, 20 meters away, was an emergency access panel. Maintenance corridor. Not meant for students, but it would get them out. This way, she shouted to her friends who had somehow stayed close to her. Follow me. She ran for the panel, the Glinian child clutched to her chest. Behind her, Zilara, Ren, Jax, and Kira followed, along with a dozen other students who had heard her shout. Maya yanked the panel open and herded them into the maintenance corridor. Keep moving. This corridor connects to the residential sector. Go. Students poured through the opening. Maya counted them, made sure no one was left behind. 15, 20, 25, a mix of species all terrified. Maya. Zilara grabbed her arm. You have to come too. I will. I just need to make sure. An explosion rocked the plaza. Not close, but close enough. The maintenance corridor shook. Emergency lights flickered on. That was the bomb, Maya said quietly. Her mind was already analyzing. It was small. Probably a warning or a diversion. There might be more. Ren stared at her. How do you know that? Because it's what we used to do. Small explosion first, get everyone running in panic, then hit the evacuation routes with the real attack. She looked at the students crowded in the corridor. We need to get everyone to a safe location and warn security about secondary devices. Jax's face had gone pale. You think there are more bombs? I think we should act like there are and hope I'm wrong. Maya turned to address the group. Listen up. We're going to move quickly and calmly through this corridor to the residential sector. Stay together. Don't run. If you see anything suspicious, any device or package that looks out of place, you tell me immediately. Understood? They nodded, some crying, all scared. But they listened. Because in a crisis, people follow the person who seems to know what they're doing. And right now, Maya was the only one who did. She led them through the maintenance corridors, her training taking over completely. Check corners. Watch for threats. Keep the group calm and moving. She had done this before in worse conditions with less support. They made it to the residential sector without incident. Security was already there, evacuating dorms. Maya handed off the Glinian child to a medical officer and gave a rapid report to the security captain about potential secondary devices. The captain listened carefully, then nodded. "We'll sweep for additional devices. Thank you for getting those students to safety, Miss Chen." As he walked away, Maya turned to find her friends staring at her again. But this time there was something different in their expressions. Not wariness or fear, respect. "You saved lives today," Ren said quietly. "Again," Maya shook her head. "I just did what needed to be done. Anyone would have—" "No," Zalara interrupted. "They wouldn't have. Most of us froze. You acted. You knew what to do, and you did it. That's not something to downplay, Maya." Maya looked at each of them in turn. Her friends. People who knew what she was, what she had been, and chose to stand beside her anyway, maybe. She thought, fitting in didn't mean pretending to be someone she wasn't. Maybe it meant finding people who accepted her for who she was. The bomb turned out to be the work of a radical group protesting Federation trade policies. 3 small devices had been planted around the station. Maya had been right about the secondary explosives. Security found and disabled them before they could detonate following her warning. No one was seriously injured, but Maya's life changed completely after that day. By the next morning, she had gone viral across the station network. Videos of her leading students to safety, security footage of her quick thinking, student testimonials about how she had saved lives. The story spread beyond the station, picked up by Federation news services. The human who survived a war and brought those skills to save others in a crisis. She couldn't walk 10 meters without someone stopping her. Some wanted autographs. Others wanted to thank her. A few wanted interviews. One overeager Cathari freshman wanted her to teach a self-defense class. It was everything she had tried to avoid. She was no longer invisible. She was famous. Maya spent 3 days hiding in her dorm room, skipping classes, ignoring messages. She ordered food from delivery bots and tried to convince herself she could just wait it out. The attention would fade. People would forget. She could go back to being nobody. On the 4th day, Zalara showed up at her door. "Okay, enough," Zalara said, pushing past Maya into the room. "You're coming with me." "I can't. Everyone's worried about you." "The whole study group has been trying to reach you. Professor Kess asked about you in class. Even Dean Merchant checked in." Zalara's skin shifted to concerned purples. "Maya, you can't just hide forever." "I didn't ask for any of this," Maya said, her voice breaking. "I just wanted to be normal, to fit in, to leave my past behind. And now everyone knows. Everyone's looking at me like I'm some kind of hero, but I'm not. I'm just someone who survived." Zalara sat on Maya's bed. "You're right. You didn't ask for this, but it happened anyway. And you have a choice now. You can keep hiding, keep trying to be someone you're not, or you can accept who you are. War survivor, protector, friend, all of it. It's not that simple. No, it's not. But nothing worth doing is simple." Zalara stood and pulled Maya to her feet. "Come on, the group's waiting at the cafe. We have a proposition for you." Maya let herself be dragged out of her room, through the corridors where students did indeed stop and stare, to the quiet cafe where her friends waited. Ren, Jax, and Kira looked up as they approached, relief clear on all their faces. "She lives," Jax said with forced cheerfulness. "We were starting to think you'd transferred to a different galaxy." "Considered it," Maya admitted, sinking into a chair. "What's this proposition?" Ren folded his forearms, his expression serious. "We've been talking. The station has over 50,000 students from hundreds of different species. Most of them have no idea how to respond in emergencies. The station security does their best, but they can't be everywhere. Last week's bombing proved that," Kira added. "People panicked. They trampled each other. It could have been so much worse if you hadn't been there." Maya frowned. "What are you suggesting?" "A student emergency response group," Zalara said. "Not security. Not military. Just students trained in basic crisis management, first aid, evacuation procedures, led by someone who actually knows what they're doing." They were all looking at her. "Me," Maya said flatly. "You want me to lead it?" "You already saved lives twice since you got here," Jax pointed out. "And you did it without even trying. Imagine what you could do if you actually tried." Maya shook her head. "I came here to leave all that behind. To be a normal student studying xenobiology. Not to be some kind of leader? Protector? Hero?" Ren finished. Maya, I understand you want to be normal, but you're not normal. None of us are, in different ways. And that's not a bad thing. Your experiences, your skills, they could help people. They already have helped people. Maya was quiet for a long moment. She thought about the Glinian child she had pulled from the crowd, about Zilara, whom she had protected from a bully, about the 24 students she had led to safety through the maintenance corridors, about all the people on New Providence she hadn't been able to save. I don't want to be defined by the war, she said quietly. I don't want that to be all I am. Then don't let it be, Kira said. Be a student who also happens to know how to handle emergencies. Be a xenobiology major who volunteers to help keep the station safe. Be Maya Chen, who survived a war and chose to use that experience to protect others instead of hiding from it. Zilara reached across the table and took Maya's hand. We're not asking you to go back to being a soldier. We're asking you to help us be prepared for the worst while we hope for the best, and we'll be with you every step of the way. Maya looked at each of them, these people who had become her friends, who knew the worst parts of her history and chose to stand beside her anyway, who saw her not as a broken survivor or a killer or a hero, but just as Maya, complex and flawed and worthy of friendship. Okay, she said finally. Okay, but I have conditions. They leaned forward eagerly. First, this is a volunteer group. Nobody gets forced to join. Second, we focus on prevention and response, not combat. I'm not training people to fight. Third, we work with station security, not against them or instead of them. And fourth, she took a breath. Fourth, I'm still just a student. I still get to complain about homework and eat terrible cafeteria food and go to Graviton ball games with you all. Deal, Jax grinned. Deal, though the cafeteria food really is terrible. They spent the next 2 hours planning. Ren would handle the administrative side, working with the university to get official approval. Kira would manage recruitment and outreach. Jax would set up the communication network. Zilara would coordinate training schedules. And Maya would design and lead the training program, teaching students from across the galaxy how to stay calm in a crisis, how to help others, how to be the person who acts instead of freezing. By the time they finished, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose, not the grim purpose of survival, but something lighter. The purpose of building instead of destroying, of protecting instead of fighting. As they left the cafe, students still stared and whispered, but Maya held her head higher. She wasn't hiding anymore. She wasn't pretending to be someone she wasn't. She was Maya Chen, war survivor and xenobiology student, and she was going to help keep this station safe. The next week was a whirlwind. Dean Merchant approved their proposal enthusiastically and offered university funding. Station security agreed to provide resources and guidance. The student response was overwhelming. Within 3 days, over 200 students had signed up. Maya held the first training session in a large auditorium. She stood at the front looking out at the sea of faces from dozens of different species and felt her old anxiety return. All these people, looking to her for guidance. What if she failed them? Then she saw Zilara in the front row, giving her an encouraging smile. Saw Ren, Jax, and Kira scattered throughout the crowd ready to help. Saw the genuine interest and hope in all those alien faces. She took a breath and began. My name is Maya Chen. 3 years ago, I was a 15-year-old kid living on a peaceful colony world. Then war came and everything changed. I learned things no teenager should have to learn. I saw things no one should have to see. I survived things that killed people I loved. The room was completely silent. I came here hoping to leave all that behind. To be normal. But last week taught me something important. You can't run from your past. You can only choose what you do with it. I survived a war. Now I'm going to use what I learned to make sure that when crises happen here, everyone survives too. She pulled up a holographic display showing emergency evacuation routes. This isn't about turning you into soldiers. This is about making you into the person who stays calm when everyone else is panicking. The person who knows where the exits are. The person who helps the kid who fell instead of trampling them. The person who makes a difference. Maya looked out at the crowd again, and this time she smiled. Let's get started. The training sessions became the highlight of Maya's week. She taught students about crisis psychology, emergency first aid adapted for multiple species, evacuation planning, and communication protocols. She kept it practical, hands-on. focused on situations they might actually face. But she also made sure to emphasize something else. That being prepared wasn't about being afraid. It was about being confident, about knowing you could handle whatever came your way. The students responded enthusiastically. They formed into teams, practiced scenarios, and supported each other. Species that rarely interacted began working together. Friendships formed across cultural divides. The emergency response group became something more than just crisis training. It became a community, and Maya found herself actually enjoying it. She was using her experience but not dwelling on it. She was helping people but not trying to save everyone. She was being herself, all of herself, without apologizing for it. One evening, after a particularly successful training session, she sat with her study group in their usual cafe booth. "You know what?" Maya said, looking around at her friends. "I think I finally figured something out." "What's that?" Zilara asked. "Fitting in doesn't mean hiding who you are. It means finding the place where who you are makes sense, where you can contribute something meaningful, where people see you for all your parts, not just the easy ones." She smiled. "I spent so long trying to be normal, but maybe normal isn't what I should be aiming for." Ren raised his glass in a toast. "To being abnormal, then." In the best possible way. They all clinked glasses, laughing. And Maya realized that somewhere along the way, without meaning to, she had found exactly what she was looking for. Not invisibility, not forgetting, but acceptance, community, home. She had wanted to fit in, and she had. Just not in the way she expected. 6 months passed. The emergency response group, which students had started calling the Sentinel program, had become an established part of station life. Over 400 students had completed training. They wore small badges that identified them as trained responders, and Maya often saw them around campus, helping lost freshmen find their classes or calmly directing traffic during fire drills. Maya herself had settled into a strange new normal. She still studied xenobiology. She still struggled with Professor Kess's impossible assignments. She still grabbed terrible cafeteria food with her friends and complained about the lack of decent coffee on the station. But now she also led training sessions twice a week and consulted with station security on emergency protocols. She had become visible in exactly the way she had tried to avoid. But it didn't terrify her anymore. Most days it even felt right. Then, late one evening while Maya was in the library cramming for an exam, her communicator buzzed with an emergency alert. "Hull breach in residential sector 7. All personnel evacuate immediately. Emergency services responding." Maya was on her feet before the alert finished, her heart pounding. Sector 7. That was where most of the first-year students lived, including several members of the Sentinel program. She ran through the corridors as alarms blared. Other students were evacuating in orderly fashion, guided by Sentinel members wearing their badges. Good. The training was working. But Maya needed to get to Sector 7 to assess the situation. Emergency bulkheads had already sealed off the damaged section. Security officers were setting up a perimeter. Maya pushed through the crowd until she found the security captain, a massive Trandorian named Vrex Captain. "What's the situation?" Maya asked. Vrex turned, relief crossing his features when he saw her. "Chen. Good. We've got a micrometeor strike that punched through the hull in Corridor 7C. Emergency seals activated, but we have a problem." Maya's stomach dropped. "How many?" 8 students were in the sealed section when the bulkheads came down. "We're working to get them out, but the hull damage is extensive. If we open the bulkheads, we risk decompressing half the residential sector. We're bringing in specialized equipment, but it'll take at least an hour." An hour. Maya's mind raced. 8 students trapped in a section with hull damage. Limited oxygen. Possible radiation exposure if the station's shields had been compromised. "They might not have an hour. The maintenance corridors," she said quickly. "They run parallel to the main corridors. Some of them connect to sealed sections through access panels." Vrex pulled up a schematic. "You're right. There's a maintenance junction that connects to 7C. But look at the sensors. The pressure in that junction is unstable. We can't risk sending a team through there. If the hull breach extends into the maintenance corridor, anyone in there would be sucked out into space." Maya studied the schematic. The junction was narrow, barely big enough for one person. If someone could make it through, they could access the sealed section from inside and evacuate the students through the maintenance network. But it would be dangerous. Possibly fatal. I'll go, she said. Absolutely not. You're a student, not a trained rescue operative. I'm a war veteran who spent 18 months doing exactly this kind of thing. Navigating damaged structures, making split-second decisions about risks, getting people out of bad situations. Maya met his eyes steadily. I know those students. Some of them are in the Sentinel program. They'll listen to me. And I'm small enough to fit through that junction quickly. Vrex growled in frustration. If I let you do this and you die, Dean Merchant will have my hide. Then I better not die. Give me a pressure suit and an emergency beacon. I'll get them out. For a long moment, Vrex studied her. Then he nodded sharply and barked orders at his team. 5 minutes later, Maya was suited up and standing at the entrance to the maintenance corridor. The pressure suit was bulky but necessary. If the corridor decompressed, it would keep her alive long enough to seal off the breach or get back to safety. Maybe. As the security team prepared to open the access panel, a familiar voice shouted from the crowd. Maya, wait! Zilara pushed through, her skin cycling through panicked colors. Behind her came Ren, Jax, and Kira. You can't go in there alone, Zilara said. It's too dangerous. Which is exactly why I'm going alone. I'm not risking anyone else. Ren stepped forward. One of those students trapped in there is my little sister. She just started this semester. Please bring her home. Maya felt her chest tighten. Ren had a sister on the station. She hadn't known. She grabbed his shoulder with one suited hand. I will. I promise. She looked at each of her friends. If something goes wrong, if I don't make it back, the Sentinel program continues. You all keep training students, keep making the station safer. Deal? Nothing's going wrong, Jack said fiercely. You're coming back. Maya managed to smile behind her helmet visor. Then she turned to Vrex and nodded. The security team opened the access panel. The maintenance corridor was dark, lit only by emergency strips that flickered ominously. Maya activated her helmet light and climbed inside. The panel sealed behind her with a hiss. She was alone. The corridor was narrow, forcing her to move in a crouch. Pipes and conduits lined the walls, some hissing with escaping gas. Her suit's sensors beeped warnings about pressure fluctuations. The structure groaned around her, metal stressed beyond its design limits. It reminded her too much of New Providence. Of crawling through damaged buildings, of never knowing if the next step would trigger a collapse, of the constant fear of what waited around each corner. But this time was different. This time she had training, equipment, and most importantly, purpose. She wasn't a scared kid fighting for survival. She was Maya Chen, and she had people counting on her. She moved forward steadily, testing each handhold before putting her weight on it, watching her sensors for signs of decompression. The junction point was 50 meters ahead. Then another 20 meters to the access panel that would let her into the sealed section. 30 meters from the junction, her sensors screamed a warning. Pressure drop ahead, significant pressure drop. Maya froze, her heart pounding. She activated her helmet's enhanced vision and peered ahead. There, just visible in the darkness, was a crack in the corridor wall. Not large, maybe the width of her hand, but enough. Air was escaping, and with it went any chance of crossing safely. If she continued forward, she would be gambling that her suit could handle the pressure differential. If the crack widened, if her suit failed, she would die. Quickly and horribly. But if she turned back, 8 students would die, including Ren's little sister, including members of her Sentinel program who had trusted her to teach them how to handle emergencies. She thought about New Providence, about all the times she had to make impossible choices, about the people she had saved and the people she hadn't, about the weight of responsibility and the cost of action. She thought about Zilara's face when she had defended her from the Vraxian bully, about the Glinian child she had pulled from the crowd, about her friends waiting on the other side of that access panel, believing in her. Maya took a deep breath and activated her suit's emergency protocols. The suit would provide maximum pressure support and seal any small breaches automatically. It would give her maybe 30 seconds of protection if things went bad. 30 seconds to cross 30 meters. She could do that. She had survived worse. Brex, I'm at the breach point, she said into her comm. Pressure's bad but manageable. I'm going through. Chen, wait for... She didn't wait. She moved forward in a controlled rush, hand over hand along the maintenance rail. Eyes fixed on the junction point ahead. The crack in the wall yawned beside her. a wound in the station's hull that opened onto the black void of space. Through it, she could see stars, beautiful and deadly. Her suit's alarms were shrieking now, warning her about pressure differential, about structural instability, about 1,000 different ways she could die in the next few seconds. She ignored them all and focused on moving forward. 20 meters, 15, 10. She felt a tug as air rushed past her toward the breach. Her grip on the rail tightened. If she lost her hold now, she would be pulled out into space. 5 meters, 3. Her hand closed around the junction railing. She pulled herself forward with all her strength, fighting against the suction of escaping atmosphere. One final lunge and she was through, into the section past the breach. The pressure stabilized. Her suit's alarms quieted. Maya allowed herself 3 seconds to catch her breath, then kept moving. 20 meters to the access panel. She covered the distance quickly, no longer hindered by structural damage. The panel opened easily and she dropped through into Corridor 7C. 8 students huddled together in the sealed section, their faces pale with fear. They looked up as Maya appeared and several gasped in recognition. "Maya, everyone okay? Any injuries?" She did a quick visual assessment. One student had a cut on her forehead. Another was cradling her arm. But everyone was conscious and mobile. Good. A young Thari female pushed forward. She had Ren's distinctive markings. "His sister. Is my brother okay? Is everyone safe?" "Everyone's safe. And your brother is going to be very happy to see you. But first we need to get out of here. Follow me. Stay close and do exactly what I say. We're going through a maintenance corridor and it's not going to be easy. But I promise I'll get you all out." They nodded, trusting her completely. Maya felt the weight of that trust but refused to let it slow her down. She had a job to do. Getting 8 students through the damaged maintenance corridor was going to be the hardest thing she had done since New Providence. But she had survived a war. She could survive this too. And more importantly, she would make sure all 8 of them survived it with her. Getting 8 terrified students through a damaged maintenance corridor with a hull breach was like conducting a delicate dance in the dark. Maya went first, testing each section before waving the students forward. She assigned the strongest ones to help those who were injured. She kept her voice calm and steady, giving clear instructions, never letting them see the fear she felt every time the corridor groaned or her sensors beeped another warning. The crack in the wall was still there, still bleeding atmosphere into space. Maya had the students form a chain, each one holding onto the person in front. She went last this time, making sure no one fell behind, ready to grab anyone who lost their grip. Cross quickly. Don't look at the breach. Focus on your hands, one at a time. You can do this. And they did. One by one, the students made it past the dangerous section. Ren's sister was shaking so hard she could barely grip the rail. But Maya talked her through it inch by inch, until she was safely on the other side. When all 8 students were clear, Maya followed, her heart hammering. The suction from the breach was stronger now. The crack had widened. She could hear the high-pitched whistle of escaping air. 20 meters. 15. Her suit's alarm started screaming. Critical pressure warning. Structural failure imminent. 10 meters. 5. Behind her, something gave way with a shriek of tearing metal. The crack became a gash. The suction intensified, trying to pull her back toward the void. Maya grabbed the junction rail with both hands and pulled with every ounce of strength she had. Her muscles screamed. Her suit beeped frantically. Then hands grabbed her arms. Students pulling her forward. Ren's sister and 3 others working together to drag her to safety. Maya tumbled through the junction point just as an emergency bulkhead slammed shut behind her, sealing off the breached section. For a moment, they all lay there in a tangle, breathing hard, alive. Then Ren's sister started crying, and Maya found herself hugging the young Cathari, making soothing sounds while her own hands shook with adrenaline. "We made it," Maya said. "We're okay. We're all okay." The rest of the journey through the maintenance corridors was easier. Maya led them to the residential sector checkpoint where Vrex and her friends were waiting. The moment they emerged, Ren let out a cry and rushed forward, sweeping his sister into a 4-armed embrace. The other students were greeted by worried friends and family. Maya stood to the side watching the reunions, feeling the adrenaline slowly drain away. Her legs felt like jelly. Her hands were still shaking. She had done it. They were all safe. But the cost of that rescue was hitting her now. The memories it had stirred up. The fear she had pushed down for the past hour. Then Zalara was there, wrapping her arms around Maya in a fierce hug. "You did it."
I knew you would.
I was terrified, but I knew you would. Behind her, Jax and Kira joined the embrace, and even Ren came over after settling his sister with medical personnel, adding his 4 arms to the group hug. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Thank you for bringing her home." Dean Merchant appeared, looking between Maya and the rescued students. "Miss Chen, I believe we need to have another conversation about your tendency to put yourself in danger. But later. Right now, you need medical attention and rest." Maya nodded mutely, too exhausted to argue. The next few days were a blur. Medical checkups, debriefings with station security, more attention from students and media than ever before. The story of the girl who survived a war and then risked her life to save 8 students in a hull breach had gone viral across the entire Federation. Maya hated it. But she also understood that she couldn't hide from it anymore. This was who she was. Someone who had survived terrible things and chose to use that survival to protect others. Someone who couldn't stand by when people needed help. Someone who maybe, just maybe, could make a difference. 2 weeks after the hull breach, Maya stood in front of the Sentinel program's largest training session yet. Over 600 students had signed up after seeing what she and her trained responders had accomplished. The auditorium was packed, with students sitting in the aisles and standing along the walls. Maya looked out at all those faces, all those species, all those young people who wanted to learn how to help in a crisis. And for the first time, she didn't feel the crushing weight of her past. She felt something else. Hope. "My name is Maya Chen," she began, "and this is what I've learned about surviving the worst and becoming better because of it." She spoke for an hour, not just about emergency protocols and evacuation procedures, but about resilience, about choosing who you want to be after trauma, about the difference between surviving and living, about finding purpose in the darkest experiences, about the power of community and the importance of preparation, not from fear but from love for the people around you. The students listened with complete attention. When she finished, the applause was thunderous. But what mattered most to Maya were the faces of her friends in the front row. Zilara, Ren, Jax, and Kira, all of them beaming with pride. All of them there not because she was famous or heroic, but because they cared about her. After the session, as students filed out, many stopped to thank her or ask questions. Maya answered them all patiently, no longer trying to deflect attention, no longer trying to be invisible. She was visible now, fully, completely visible. And that was okay. That evening, the study group met at their usual cafe. They didn't talk about emergencies or training. They talked about normal things, assignments, exam stress, Kira's next graviton ball game, Jax's terrible poetry attempts, Ren's latest experiment that had exploded in the lab. Normal student things. Normal friend things. Maya laughed more that evening than she had in years. "So," Zilara said as they prepared to leave, "do you think you've finally figured out how to fit in?" Maya thought about it. About the journey from the scared girl who arrived 6 months ago to the person she was now. About all the ways she had tried to hide, and all the ways she had been forced into the light. "I think I figured out something better," Maya said. "I figured out that I don't need to fit in. I need to find people who accept me as I am, past and present and everything in between. I need to use my experiences to help others instead of running from them. I need to be myself completely without apologies." She looked at each of them in turn. "And I need friends who see all of that and stick around anyway." Ren raised his glass. "To not fitting in, to being exactly who we are, to finding the people who matter. To Maya, who came here looking for normal and taught us all that normal is overrated." They clinked glasses, laughing. And Maya realized that she had found what she was looking for. Not invisibility, not forgetting, not escape from her past, but something better. Acceptance, community, purpose, home. 3 months later, Maya sat in Professor Kess's office reviewing her final project for the semester. A comprehensive study on xenobiological responses to trauma across multiple species. It was good work, some of the best in the class, and Professor Kess told her so. But as Maya stood to leave, the professor stopped her. "Miss Chen, I want you to know something. When you first arrived, I saw a student carrying a heavy weight, someone trying very hard to disappear. I see someone different now, someone who took that weight and transformed it into strength, someone who not only survived but chose to help others survive. That transformation, that courage to be fully yourself, that is what education is truly about." Professor Kess smiled, her silver scales glinting. I am proud to have you as a student. Thank you, Maya said, her voice thick with emotion. Thank you for giving me the space to become her. As Maya walked back to her dorm that evening, the station felt different. Not because it had changed, but because she had. Students still stared sometimes, but now she met their eyes and smiled. Some stopped to chat about the Sentinel program. Others asked for advice about their own struggles. A few just wanted to say hello to someone who had become an unexpected fixture of campus life. In her dorm room, Maya pulled up a comm link to Earth. Her little brother's face appeared on the screen, grinning. Maya, how's Space University? Still boring? She teased. Actually, Maya said with a smile, it's been anything but boring. You wouldn't believe the semester I've had. Tell me everything, her brother demanded, so Maya told him. About the friends she had made, about the Sentinel program, about the hull breach and the rescue, about finding purpose and community in the last place she expected. Her brother listened with wide eyes. You're like a hero, he said when she finished. No, Maya corrected gently. I'm just someone who survived something terrible and decided to do something good with it. There's a difference, but you're happy? He asked. I am, Maya realized. I really am, her brother smiled. Good. You deserve to be happy, sis. You've earned it. After the call ended, Maya sat in the quiet of her room and thought about everything that had happened since she arrived at Prometheus Station. She had come here wanting to fit in, to be normal, to leave her past behind. Instead, she had been forced to confront that past, to integrate it into who she was, to accept that her experiences were part of her but didn't define her entirely. She had found friends who saw her completely and loved her anyway. She had found purpose in helping others prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. She had found a way to honor what she had survived without being consumed by it. Most importantly, she had found herself. Not the scared survivor, not the invisible student, not the reluctant hero, but Maya Chen in all her complicated, contradictory, messy humanity. A xenobiology student who also trained emergency responders. A war survivor who also loved terrible cafeteria coffee and graviton ball games. A fighter who chose peace. A protector who needed protecting sometimes too. Outside her window, the stars glittered against the black. Somewhere out there was New Providence, the colony she had fought for and lost so much defending. She would always carry those losses. But she was learning to carry them differently now. Not as anchors holding her down, but as weights that had made her stronger, more empathetic, more determined to make the galaxy a little bit safer for everyone. Maya pulled up her class schedule for the next semester. Advanced Xenobiology, Interspecies Communication, Emergency Medical Response. A full load, but she could handle it. She had survived a war. She could survive anything. But more than that, she could thrive. She already was thriving. Her comm buzzed with a message from Zalara. Study group tomorrow. Professor Kess just posted the worst assignment in the history of academia. We need all hands on deck. Maya smiled and typed back. I'll be there. Bring coffee. The terrible stuff from the cafeteria? Zalara replied. The worst, Maya confirmed. Because even bad coffee tastes better with good friends. As she prepared for bed, Maya caught her reflection in the mirror. The girl looking back at her was tired, scarred by experiences no teenager should have, carrying weight that would never fully lift. But she was also smiling. She was also hopeful. She was also alive, truly alive, for the first time in years. She had come to Prometheus Station wanting to fit in. What she had found instead was so much better. She had found her place, not by becoming someone else, but by learning to be fully herself. Not by hiding her past, but by transforming it into strength. Not by trying to be normal, but by embracing everything that made her extraordinary. Maya Chen had survived a war. And now finally she was learning how to live. Tomorrow she would attend class and complain about homework with her friends. She would lead a training session for the Sentinel program. She would grab terrible coffee and laugh at Jax's terrible jokes and help Ren with his experiments. She would be a student, a friend, a leader, a survivor, a protector. She would be all of it simultaneously without apology. She would be herself. And that, she had finally learned, was more than enough. The station's lights dimmed for night cycle. Maya climbed into bed exhausted but content. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to make a difference. But tonight she could rest. She had earned it. She just wanted to fit in, everyone had said when her story went public, and then everyone learned she survived a war. But the real story, The one Maya understood now was different. She had never needed to fit in. She had needed to find her fit, and in the most unexpected place with the most unexpected people, facing the most unexpected challenges she had. Maya closed her eyes and smiled. She was home.